A very good evening. You're watching News 9 Facebook Live with me, Adarsh Vepachedu. Well, it is June 8th today, and today marks the beginning of Phase 1 of Unlock 1.0 as you know it. So, not just in Karnataka, but across the country, you have several establishments that will now begin to open up. In fact, that have already opened their doors for the general public. We're talking about how restaurants, hotels, temples, offices have been allowed to work at a larger capacity. You also have religious places, masjids, churches, and shopping malls, of course. All of these establishments are now open. There have been solid standard operating procedures, standard operating protocols, and a to-do list that has been given out by the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare to all of these establishments that they must follow starting the 8th of June as they begin to open their doors. Well, in fact, I want to keep this interaction very interactive, if I were to really say that. So, in case if you have any questions, any doubts about what are the kind of measures, norms and precautions that all these establishments will be following on ground starting today, and whether you want to know something about the guidelines, the procedures that will be followed, kindly shoot away your questions. And you can always ask me, and we can always discuss as to whether what we are going through at this point in time is the right thing to really look forward to. Whether we should open up the country, unlock the country the way in which we are doing right now, or should there be a slightly more amount of restraint when it comes to how we are beginning to open up the country. So yes, you can keep your comments coming in. I'll keep a close watch on the comments. In fact, I have a few already. I can see many delivery guys going no masks and gloves. Well, yes, delivery executives have been out there since almost the beginning of the lockdown because they were allowed to provide their services. But as we see more often than not, we see the executives flouting the rules, the norms of wearing masks. So that is indeed something that is worrisome. But yes, if you can keep your questions coming in pertaining to the Unlock 1.0, the phase 1 of it that has begun today. Let's see how long the guidelines are going to be followed. Yes, that's again the crux of it. While you have literally a big list of guidelines that have been given out by the government for, say, temples, masjids, churches, for malls, for hotels and restaurants that they must follow. How long will they really ensure that all of these regulations are followed, and how responsible will the visitors be? Again, matters the most. We as citizens visiting any of these spots must ensure that we are responsible and follow all the guidelines set by the center, and we ourselves should be responsible in terms of taking our own precautions and maintaining our hygiene. So that's really the way forward. It shouldn't be a case of starting off very strictly, but as we go forward, we become a little more lenient and we start to forego on the guidelines. That should never be the case, because if we were to really put the guidelines and the precautions on the back burner, then this unlock phase 1 itself would result in so many COVID-19 cases getting registered. Can you imagine people in hundreds entering malls, people in hundreds entering temples, and if we're not following any of the guidelines set forth by the center, then it would really be problematic going forward. So yes, matter really is as to how well we ensure that the guidelines are adhered to. So yes, at this point in time, we do not have too many questions, but I have a lot of information that I can certainly share with you. For example, let's start with religious places as to what are the guidelines set forth by the center when it comes to religious places. What are the preventive measures they need to have in place as they begin to open up. At the entrance of any place of worship, there needs to be a provision for hand sanitizers. There should also be thermal screening. Only asymptomatic visitors or worshippers will be allowed. And all people visiting the place of worship must be wearing a mask. Now, these are some things that go without saying. When it comes to posters and standees on preventive measures about COVID-19, they need to be affixed in the place of worship premises. staggering of visitors must be done, in the sense that you cannot have a huge influx of devotees getting into, let's just say, a temple at once. So there should be a close tab on the number of people entering any place of worship. Shoes and footwear to be preferably taken off inside your own vehicle. This is a very important guideline again. So no depositing your footwear at the temple premise. Might as well go ahead and do that in your own private vehicle. Proper crowd management should be done at the parking lots and outside the premises as well. Now, as you know it, when it comes to any place of worship, a lot of crowd that accumulates usually does outside the temple, and also when it comes to the parking lot. And yes, when it comes to inside the temple also, you have a lot of people coming in front of each other after a long time. So they should not be really greeting themselves with close proximity. They should be maintaining certain distance while they greet other people of the locality while they are at the temple. So that is again another guideline that has been issued. All shops, stalls and cafeteria that may be open outside and within the premises shall follow social distancing norms. So not just the place of worship, but also the other establishments that come with the place of worship, like the cafeteria or even the small shops, have been allowed to open. But yes, they have to follow social distancing, and they need to ensure that all the visitors are maintaining proper sanitation. So physical distancing has been given importance to. Specific markings. There will be boxes that you will observe when you've gone to the temple. In fact, that is something that I'd like to tell you at this point. In case if you've gone to any of the malls today, if you've gone to let's just say a temple or a masjid or a church, maybe a restaurant, you can please tell me as to how it feels. This is something that I can get to know as to how it is on ground. If one of you could really tell me if you've been to any one of these places that have now opened up after Unlock 1.0 has come into effect. Another thought coming in: cases will only increase from now on. Be prepared. Yes, that is one of the biggest fears. But the only reason why you have all of these establishments now opening their doors is because revenue must really flow. We can't really say that about the places of worship. But when it comes to the restaurants, the hotels, the shopping malls, they need to really start getting back onto their feet. And that is the reason why you have all of these establishments now opening up. And a lot is in our hands as to how responsible we are as citizens, whether we choose to go to the mall, whether we choose to go to the restaurant or the hotel, or even the temple for that matter. Because as one would say, as one would believe, God resides where you want him to be. You can even pray at your home, and that's what all religions have in fact canvassed for over the last few weeks. So going ahead and praying at your home may as well be the right way to go about it, instead of going to a temple. So that said, it remains to be seen as to how responsible we really are on ground. Unless people are aware themselves, government cannot help. That's another view coming in. Yes, that's right. People have to be responsible, and that's where the crux is. Can we travel to other states? Yes, you can. Modes of transport are now available, not just flights. You also have trains and interstate buses also that can be allowed to travel from point A to point B, given only if the two states involved are willing. So let's just say you're talking about Karnataka to Tamil Nadu. You need to have a situation where both Karnataka and Tamil Nadu are willing for that travel to take place. So only if that is the case can you travel between two states. Another thought coming in: when the cases were less, there was a strict lockdown, and now when cases are boosted and lockdown got open, I don't think so people follow rules unless there's strict fines imposed. Even I don't see people wearing masks in public places yet and roaming freely. Well, lockdown was more about having a small time period where the healthcare system can really prepare for a possible influx of coronavirus patients. And when it comes to that aspect, at least, lockdown has done its job by giving the healthcare system the time. But yes, any given country, and India for that matter, you cannot have a situation where the lockdown can go on literally till as long as the pandemic continues. So in such a situation where economy is in doldrums, people's lives are at stake because they're literally starving, you cannot have a situation where the lockdown can continue. They need to get back onto their feet, and that's the reason why you have the lockdown almost being lifted, the country in an unlock mode. So a few questions like that coming in. Is only focusing on the economy right now. The government is focusing on the economy. Yes, it's a balancing act between focusing on the economy and ensuring that the number of COVID-19 cases do not spike. But economy is not something that the government would get. It is ultimately to do with the people, and it is all about we the people on the ground. So yes, a few thoughts, not too many questions. Also, why are there exceptions for social distancing? Truth be told, there should be no exception whatsoever when it comes to social distancing, especially at this situation where you have malls, where you have temples, place of worship, hotels, restaurants now opening up. While there are several guidelines that the owners are taking on the ground, it is our responsibility to ensure social distancing is maintained, and it is really in our hands. So if you do not see social distancing happening, it is because the people are not choosing for the same. So it's all the more time for us to be very careful, because lockdown is no longer in place. You have an unlock situation. So it is always better that we mentally continue with the lockdown, physically continue with the lockdown, and not head to all of these places that are beginning to open up. We can always, if we have stayed without all of these establishments for so long, we can do so for a little longer till situation gets better. In fact, that would be my closing remark for this evening. I shall be back once again soon when there is a very relevant topic for me to really speak about. But many thanks for all the comments that have been posted. And yes, do not forget to like and subscribe to News 9 on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Many thanks for joining us.